All right, so welcome to another video from the chart readers. This is actually one of the more popular ones. We're going to be reviewing the marijuana sector. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 7 tickers that we'll review. Like always, we'll look at the daily and the weekly because roughly I make these about a week out. We will look at our moving averages as well as these resistance and support lines that I have drawn manually. And then we'll wind it down with the 2 lower indicators just as that little reassurance. So, hey, if you haven't already, please subscribe on YouTube. It really is the quickest way to get the updates. I just crossed 50, and I'm not going to lie, that was a pretty cool thing. I still remember being under like 5, right? So I do appreciate you guys. So what are we looking at? You know, the last time I made this video was actually on the 15th, and it looked relatively bullish coming into the 15th, right? What really happened was this 100 moving average on the daily, right? It actually never really even got over this 442 line. But more than anything, I think I'm going to attribute it to the 100 moving average than I would my lines. So what happened, right? Actually, it opened above it opened higher on the 15th, right? Then it closed actually over the line and over 50%, right? So this was still actually relatively bullish. However, the next day is really where the confirmation comes, right? We basically lose the line, we lose the 8 moving average, and at this point, the 2 days really took down this big candle, right? Obviously, the next day wasn't as bad, but we get that confirmation that, look, 2 days under the 8, and then unfortunately, the preceding days just got hammered, right? At this point, it looks like we've been caught by the 50 moving average, right? So we broke the line, we tested this next one, we kind of dropped back to it, and it hopefully looks like we're going to be bouncing back up. Obviously, I'm going to need some good confirmation. And again, if you've watched these videos, I really say don't get in a trade unless we're over the 8 at the minimum, right? So we're clearly well under this green line, right? The 8 moving average. So I generally like to say stay away, right? Because if you get a good break, you'll ride up the 8, right? Right now, it seems like we might be riding down the 8, right? I'm really glad we got caught by the 50, but yeah, sad to see because really, look, the RSI never even got that high, right? Where was it? Yeah, it never even crossed 70, actually. So it's a little sad to see that this momentum right here really failed. And clearly it was a hard fail, right? So let's see if this bounce might be good. Because again, we got one break of the 50, clearly failed. We did break with some good confirmation. Again, I'm hoping that it was a real confirmation right here if we bounce, right? But again, I really wouldn't even touch this thing until we broke the 394 line. So because the break of the 394 would also get us over the 8 and obviously over the 20 as well. Let's look at weekly real quick. So again, look, let me zoom in a bit here, right? TLRY on the weekly has broken the 8. It looks like it has failed the 20. It's come back to the 8, and again, hopefully is bouncing up. But I don't like this right here. That's a little sad, right? At the minimum, we really want to get up here on the end of the week, right? We want to at least hold 50% of this last candle. So back to the daily, again, I would stress this 394 range. So that's TLRY. Hopefully, again, a bounce of the 50 could do some good things here, but let's get back over the 8. One last emphasis. So ACB, look, it makes sense actually. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's a almost identical line. Let me just see if there's actually it didn't get as close actually. So let's talk about a couple things. First and foremost, there was a very nice gap fill, right? We almost got to halfway, right? Look, just right when I clicked it, we almost touched these lines up here, right? So we made a pretty decent run on this gap. We actually filled almost half of it, right? From there, I do think a little bit of the TLRY momentum just kind of came here, right? It was a pretty hard crash. Again, it seems like this 50 might have been the catch, right? We obviously went a little below it, don't get me wrong, but this seems like a pretty good day. It looks like we might be regaining this 152 line, but again, I keep stressing, you want to be over the 8 before you really touch it, right? And one more time, this 185, this is still a really nice gap, right? So I could see a pretty hard run if it breaks 190, maybe a run from 190 all the way up to here to roughly 210, right? Doesn't sound like a lot, but again, that's some solid percentages on a low dollar stock, right? So you see 13 cents is 9%, right? So yeah, I think the safest bet would be here. Again, this will be a I think I'm going to draw a line right here, actually. This will be an important resistance. Let's do that. So again, you can play this little gap right here. That's about 10%, right? It's a little less than 16 cents, but it's not that far away. And then, if this breaks, I think there's a good chance it hits the 100, if not the top of the gap. So I would keep my eye on ACB. Again, it has a very similar chart to TLRY, so I would imagine the two would be trading pretty similarly. Let's look at the weekly real quick. Okay, again, same thing, right? I really want to get a little higher by Friday. We want to at least keep 50% of last week's candle, right? Because this candle also just took the entire gain of that candle, right? So let me zoom in a little bit just to show it, right? So we had a very nice week this week, literally lose everything the following week, and now we're kind of trying to regain it, right? So hopefully we come to at least like right there, 160 we can round it to. So but again, still a good amount of time between now and Friday, right? It only sounds like 2 days, but it's actually a good amount of time. So a couple more of these bad boys and we'll see. Again, just looking down here real quick, I like that we're peaking. I do, but again, I'm a fan of just kind of safer moves. And for me, getting over the 8 is very safe. I would combine that with the break of a line as well, just as that like double assurance. So that is ACB. So MSOS, this one again is an ETF, right? So this is a number of stocks that are kind of together. And look, there were really nice runs on other ones and then they kind of fell, right? This one had way less movement, but overall was a little bit safer and had a really nice break today, right, as you see. And look, these indicators are actually looking pretty good. So MSOS, I've always said this with ETFs, generally they're going to be the safer play, right? They're not going to get the wild ups and downs that you'll see with individual tickers, but if you get a good ETF, you can ride them pretty high. And look, these lines are pretty killer on this thing, right? So as long as we open above this one, I'd be really happy going into tomorrow. This is a pretty big candle, so I can see us coming back down to 1220 maybe, but again, if the volume is there, this is very nice. This looks beautiful. And actually, if we zoom in, the MACD looks pretty good too, right? So there's a couple of things actually to be bullish about. The one cool thing, look, this one also got caught by the 50 on the daily, right? So that has been the theme across the first 3 so far. Looking at the weekly, I mean, this is pretty nice actually. And look, a break of this 1265 would really give a good reason to believe that we'd come to this 1325, right? There is nothing in here that's really going to stop it, right? When there's reds, only it's good. It's generally these green ones that I put my lines on. So yeah, MSOS is actually looking pretty bullish. Again, look at these right here, right? There's still plenty of room on the RSI, and this MACD is actually looking pretty good and coming up to the 0, right? Again, I rarely talk about the numbers on the MACD, but positive is better than negative. That's a basic math thing, right? So MSOS, I actually really like this if it opens over 1265 tomorrow. Watch the volume, but yeah, this looks good. Worst case, I could see this coming down tomorrow to 1220. I can see it retesting this line, but that would at least hold 50%, right? So still would be in play if we hold 50%. So coming to HEXO. You know, HEXO, again, this one just such a tight one, right? We're literally at the 20-cent range, and, you know, 2 cents is 10%, right? So it's kind of a tight window. But what are we looking at? Same basic thing, right? It looked like there was a break of the 50. It has now come down. It didn't really get caught exactly by the line. I'll give you a little more credit to my support line than the 50 itself. But again, look, we are actually under all 3. Here's the 50, here's the 20, and here's the 8, right? For me, the safest play is breaking this 0.23. Because if you're up here, you're at least over the 8, you're over this line, and obviously you're over all this as well, right? Let me zoom out real quick just to see. So we didn't really come that close to the 100. Really, I would say this support line was also more of our resistance than the actual moving average. So But again, look, everything in this industry really is dancing around the 50 on the daily right now, right? Most of them have at least beat the 50 in the beginning of the month. I think now it's just a matter of a little bit of a cool down, a little bit of just seeing how this market's going to look, because this week's been a little choppy, right? Let's be honest. It's been a great few weeks. This week kind of seems a little iffy, right? And, you know, people kind of remember what's in front of them, right? And an iffy week looks scary. I will be honest, this is a really ugly weekly view. The daily looked not too shabby, I'll be honest. It looks like there might be hope for a bounce, but I am not liking this weekly at all. The RSI looks like it's coming down. MACD's here, but I mean, nothing special. But really what I don't like is here. Excuse me, we're under this line on the weekly. We're well below this candle, and actually this candle as well. We're below both weeks of 2 weeks of candles. I don't like that. Yes, we're over the 8. Don't get me wrong. I will say that that's good, right? But just relative to the last 2 weeks on this candle charts, it's really ugly actually. So that break of the 0.23 will be really important again, because it'll make the weekly look good and it'll be a little bit safer of an entry on the daily. Yeah. Next up is CGC. If I'm not mistaken, CGC has actually been doing okay. Yeah, that is what I thought actually. So look, this is actually a very similar story, but there is a slight difference here, obviously, right? So again, in that beginning of the month, we break the 50. This, I can see the blue, so I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. It looks like this got a little closer to the 100 than most of the other ones, right? I think I would say this and TLRY were probably the closest to the 100. The slap down was not as bad, and really it wasn't the 50 that seems to have caught us. It actually looks like it's a combination of this resistance line or support line that I drew, excuse me, and maybe we can even say the 20, right? But at this point, it looks like we've been riding the 8, small drop, and hopefully regaining the 8 after today. So I would watch CGC. This one might be the most bullish, again, just because of where it's sitting relative to the 8 and the other moving averages. And again, these actually don't look too bad. This one seems to have been able to get the RSI a little higher, right? This one's actually hit the 70s. So there is also a little bit more momentum looking on CGC than the rest that we've talked about. So yeah, I remember seeing this one and look at that weekly. That is a really pretty weekly. And again, if you have a pretty weekly, you're going to have a beautiful daily, right? If you're getting, on average, the week went up. On average, the week went up. It started high, came back down, but still up. Boom, 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 right? You're going to have good dailies if your weekly looks this good. So I would imagine this 20 might be a pretty hard resistance. If you look on this view alone, it's been so long, so long. Wow. Wow. Okay, so we haven't been over the 20 in a little more, a year and a half. The last time we were over the 20 on the weekly was April 2021. So a break of the 20. Look, if this 474 line actually breaks, this bad boy can go wild actually, because this first line will break the 20. The next line will give us a real nice confirmation. And then, you know, from there, hopefully the momentum keeps going. But RSI still low, MACD still low. That's a beautiful thing. Just watch this 20. Hopefully there's no slap down. But yeah, CGC had the prettiest weekly, has the nicest daily, and really the best action in terms of it got caught by at least not the 50, right? This is the only one that got caught by something other than the 50. Good job, CGC. SNDL. Sandal. So again, this one has a little bit of mean power. This one, unfortunately, never broke the 50. So look at that. There was a really high RSI growing too. How high did it get? It got to 83. And really, that kind of killed the momentum, right? It literally just does a weird peak right there, right? But yeah, this 50, this is actually, I think, the first one that didn't break the 50, right? So everyone had the attempt to the 50. Most did break. Sandal actually did not. Very sad, actually. Yeah, I actually think I remember being a little bullish on Sandal. Obviously, I'm not going to lie, I didn't have any money on it. But yeah, interesting. Sandal, that's sad, actually. I'm a little disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little disappointed. Yeah. Let's see. What does the weekly look like? Again, you can see the weekly just never got over the 8. And again, I keep stressing, try to look one time frame out so that your time frame that you're actually trading in looks that much better, right? This weekly never got over the 8. Obviously, that means that the daily is going to struggle as well, right? So, yeah, Sandal, really disappointing. It was setting up nicely. Clearly, it was just a little too high in RSI, got to 81, and then just peaked really weirdly here and made its way down. But, hey, if this 20 bounce is real, again, just watch for the break of the 294 because that'll get you over the 8 as well. So that is my advice there. Not financial advice, just opinion, of course. Last on the list is Cron. Oh, interesting. Not interesting. Okay, so this one actually didn't, it made a different move, right? So the moving averages don't line up just the same way. We have the 200 coming up here, which is different than the rest of them, right? Because most of them are still trying to break the 100. Cron actually beat the 100 in this early August time frame. Most were still working their way up to the 50 at the time, right? So Cron seems to be moving a little bit more ahead than the rest, if that makes sense, right? So Cron is trying to make its way to the 200 while the rest are trying to make their way to the 100. Cron actually broke the 100, tried to do a bounce, right? If you see this, it failed, come here, does another attempt at the 100, fails, comes here. Look, and we're right now sitting at a pretty tight window, right? We're over a couple moving averages. We're sitting right on a line. Watch how this one opens tomorrow. Cron looks pretty interesting, actually. Again, what are we at the weekly? This is another interesting weekly that I'm looking at, right? It looked like it wanted to make a break. It did this really ugly drop. This is a pretty nice weekly. Again, there's still 2 days, so a lot can happen in the next 2 days. But if we can hold this 313 and work our way up, oh man, that should look really nice. Watch Cron, again, at 314, literally a penny over where we close would be beautiful because that's going to get us over these moving averages and over this line. So CGC and Cron are probably the two most bullish in this view. So again, if you haven't subscribed already, I really hope you do. I hope you're learning and yeah, seeing the power of these lines. Have a great one.